That's great. It's great that I have a spot for.
So the funny thing is if you remember, this was our counter at the old location.
Oh yes.
And so my point of sale is sitting here, and that's where our cables ran through.
Oh wow. That's great.
So works out good.
Yes, it does. I was kind of like, where am I going to put this beverage? And then I just went, I just put it right there. We were just talking about community.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you have an idea of community just as I have an idea of community. But what does that look like for you? What is that place? You know, when you walk in, it's kind of like, oh, this is community.
Right.
You know?
Well, and a lot of it has to do with growing up in Fargo, North Dakota, right?
Sure.
I tell everybody that this is the kind of store that I always wish existed growing up. Like, it was a place that not only sold video games, but shared in that enjoyment of playing video games.
Sure.
So we fast forward to today where, you know, I always wish this kind of store existed growing up. No one's ever done it. I might as well build it myself.
Yes.
I don't want to talk about politics or anything nonsensical like that.
Sure.
Hey, we're here about gaming. If you want to talk about gaming, let's talk about gaming. Leave all that other smut outside kind of thing.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Where do you think you learned that? Like, some people haven't learned that we really need to take care of one another so that all of us, you know, can thrive.
Yeah, and I mean, social
succeed.
gaming is definitely part of it. I played a lot of years in World of Warcraft. The guild that my buddy actually is technically the guild leader for now, it's still technically existing, even though it's not running anything current. But like, it's just kind of funny that if I log into this, I've been playing the game for almost 20 years, the same guild is still in existence. It's never been deleted and recreated or anything like that. So it's wild to think about just the name of it is still ongoing.
Yeah.
And then if my wife and I want to, if we have time is the biggest thing, but if we wanted to resume World of Warcraft, we could just plug right back into it.
And I was just having another conversation with like a friend that I had made in grade school, and he was talking about like video games, you had to figure it out. Like when we played them, there weren't a lot of players' guides.
You couldn't just go on the internet.
There wasn't the internet, there wasn't really a community that was near us besides other people who were playing.
Right.
You know, so I guess that's like a friend group.
Yep.
You know, or other players, but it wasn't really a place you could go. And yes, there was no YouTube. You couldn't watch a walkthrough.
Right.
But it was fun though. We would sit as like a group, and we would all kind of like. The thing that I miss is like us sitting around. It'd be like at least 4 of us, right? You know, and then obviously we'll, you know, let other players. Everybody gets to play, but we're a team.
Yes.
Trying to beat this one-player game.
And so, do you believe, I'm not going to say like one's good or bad, but it's like, how have you seen that kind of transform where it's like certain players just troubleshoot it? They just play and figure it out. Other ones perhaps watch something and then it's like, oh, okay, I get it. And then...
It definitely seems to be more generational too. Like older players will typically beat their head against the wall till they can figure it out. And my son, who is 6, is already like, he spent 3 seconds on it. Let's watch a YouTube video. Like, no, we can figure this out. Like, it's not that complicated, and part of it is just the ease of access. But as a more mature adult, mature-ish adult, right? I know that my brain has benefit for figuring out the neural pathways myself.
Sure.
And so I'll try quite a few different maneuvers on something if I'm struggling before I finally give up to. And usually I'll read a guide first because I don't want to see it done. I still want to do it.
Sure.
And so I'm much more quick to look up a guide versus a video on something.
I think with video games, I had found that they were so immersive. People talk about like open world games or sandbox, right? Isn't that another one where you can just kind of do, or is that kind of like Minecraft, right?
Sandbox would be Minecraft. Open world is also another term for Minecraft.
Sure.
Sandbox is the...
I know there's kind of overlap sometimes.
Yeah. Sandbox is the term for building your own world kind of thing. You can tear apart the game or build it up however you want. So like Halo has the Forge where you can create your own custom maps, and so that's also known as a sandbox mode. And
Gmod, is that another one?
Yeah, Gary's mod. Yep.
And so yes, and thinking about that, like how we can become, or how we did become so absorbed, and I guess I'm kind of coming back to community too, and how I think we took that kind of, I guess, sense of exploration and sense of adventure, and I think we started applying that to our own lives. And
Yeah.
I'm not just speaking for you.
Right.
That's what I've noticed. Some people, seeing how life could be, how we could make this so much more interconnected and more intricate, innovative and inventive. What we experienced in these games.
And it's kind of, I'm in a weird place with new gaming where I definitely, Super Nintendo is my favorite system. I still go back and play those games. And I love that we're in a time now where people are making new games for those systems.
That's happening?
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, and so we actually have a game that's a demo for a guy that's working on a NES game.
Okay.
That he just came through Fargo one day and was like, hey, you do video games, here you go, and gave us demos. And you can theoretically play them on an NES, but they crash a lot because they're just demos.
Sure.
It's not the full-fledged game yet.
Yeah.
But it's just cool that there are people that are working on these style of games. It's interesting because watching a movie or reading a book is passive entertainment.
Yeah, you said.
And video games active entertainment.
Definitely.
And you're involved with what's happening on the screen.
Sure.
Your input is required to make the thing function.
Yes.
And so then that gets into the topic of what is play. And you can't have it without your own involvement. You have to provide input to make it do something, right? And it's just trying to think about what could theoretically exist to be the second type of we have movies and we have books. They're in that passive thing.
Yeah.
Listening to music is a passive thing.
Yeah.
But then if you're participating in it, it's a different experience. And video games are just their own thing. There's nothing that's gonna we have virtual reality, that's another type of video game, but that's still fundamentally the same side of that equation. So it's curious to know, is there something that will eventually exist someday that will be as good as video games?
Sure.
Or gaming in general?
And so it's really great that we can have a place in our community in Fargo-Moorhead. Thank you for creating this place.
Definitely.
Making this place. Leveling up so many times where you could actually,
Right.
defeat those sorts of bosses and make certain, that this is that sort of reward. Do you feel like it was a sort of hero's journey?
It's
that
definitely
you were on?
still a journey.
Oh,
yeah.
really? Are you
Yeah.
still on it?
Yeah, we're doing a trial in this new location to see does the location improve our business.
The one we're in now?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
And this business has evolved tremendously just from moving to this location. Another group that started up that I'm trying to rebuild after COVID was FM Retro, which was individuals interested in playing older style games, but kind of getting back to couch co-op type play,
Sure.
Or couch competitive type play. But those older style games that you pass into the controller, it's a physical action.
That's what I. Yep.
People don't know how to do that right now. It's kind of weird. And so just think about that kind of, what kind of other communities can we be supporting with video games as a whole. And, we do a lot of birthday parties and we're starting to get more into corporate style events.
Oh, okay.
And so it's how do you develop your work culture, your work atmosphere, and get your employees to engage with each other in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Versus a sales team, it's hard because they're at each other's throats on who's going to get the next sale, right?
Yeah.
And that all just kind of encompasses what we try to do here is that it's if it's about video games, we want to be involved with that conversation. If it's about games now, because we have board games, there's just a lot that can go into it, and we just want to create the opportunities for people to have those experiences.
Well, I think that's it. Thank you so much. I'll
Definitely.
stop these.
Sounds good.
Because that was an hour and 6 seconds. Did it.